up, everybody? Happy holidays. Spencer Stein here for Pickup Sports Talk. I know we've taken about a week off. I've been sick, and we're going to go on break soon until January. And there have been a lot of things in the sports world, a lot of NFL. But I'm just going to come at you guys with my college football bowl predictions. I'm going to go through all of the bowls, starting with the more important ones. But trust me, you'll want to stay till the end to get some interesting betting nuggets. I'm going to start here with the playoff. I talked about this on the podcast a little bit already, but I think that Georgia is going to steamroll their way through the playoff. They're going to start with Ohio State. If Maryland could score 30 on Ohio State and Michigan just scored 45 on them, I think Georgia will be able to get at least 35 points on them at home. And I don't think Ohio State's offense will get moving with no Travion Henderson, especially against the best defense in the country. I have Georgia winning this one to blowout 37-16. While the Fiesta Bowl, I think, is actually going to be the most interesting game of this playoff. I did want to see Michigan, Ohio State here, but I think TCU keeps it close, at least in the first half. Michigan is a second half team. I think this is about a 13-10 ball game at the half, but Michigan will pull away in the second half, winning it handily, probably around 34-21. I think Max Duggan will keep TCU in the game in the first half, and JJ won't necessarily separate himself, but in the second half, JJ McCarthy will prove he's a competent quarterback and is the better quarterback in this game. It's going to be difficult, though, with no run game, and I think that's what holds them back in the championship. The championship, I think, is going to be similar to Georgia's first game against Ohio State, a team without their star running back, and I don't think JJ is going to be able to step up to the challenge. We've seen him play better of late, but I realistically don't think he's ready to play and put up even 20 points on this Georgia defense. I think Georgia's going to win that one in a similar manner, blow them out, back-to-back champions, and I think the first game, especially having that home field advantage, is a big deal. Going to the New Year's Six Bowls, I'll start with in the Rose Bowl, we have Penn State playing against Utah, and I think that Penn State's defense is a lot better than USC's was, which is the last team Utah played, so Cam Rising will have some trouble, but they'll get the run game going, and I think this game is really settled with that Sean Clifford in his last career game at Penn State, I think is not going to rise to the occasion. I think he's going to challenge, turn the ball over, and I think they'll lose that one by about a touchdown. Going to the Cotton Bowl, USC and Tulane. When I first saw this game, I thought USC would definitely win it. I thought they were the better team. But the more and more I look at it, their defense is weak. I really question the motivation factor with them falling apart at the end of the season. And I think Michael Pratt from Tulane will have a game, and he'll be able to tear up that USC defense, especially with some opt-outs. But I do think that if Caleb Williams plays, which he's planning on playing, and Jordan Addison plays, I think USC finds a way to squeak one out. But I do think there's a genuine chance they lose this game. I do think they win by about a field goal, though. The Citrus Bowl, looking at Purdue and LSU. Looking at Purdue in this game, Jeff Brom, their head coach, has left. Aiden O'Connell, their star quarterback, has declared for the draft. And without those two players, this team is nothing, at least in my opinion. I know LSU has tons of opt-outs and guys going to the draft, but Brian Kelly will be able to better prepare his team than a Purdue coaching staff with Drew Brees on it all of a sudden. With no quarterback, this Purdue team would be at the bottom of the Big Ten, so I think they're definitely going to lose this game to LSU, probably by around 20. The ReliaQuest Bowl, Illinois playing a Mississippi State team without their head coach Mike Leach, who passed a few weeks ago. I think motivation is such a huge factor in these bowl games, especially with opt-outs and NIL and the transfer portal. And I think when any team has a small edge in motivation, which this Mississippi State team has, I give them the edge in the game. Looking at Illinois, they do have a great defense, although they've kind of been playing not as well of late. They did play a close game against Michigan, but I think Mississippi State, with the motivation factor, finds a way to win this game, maybe in overtime. The Sugar Bowl, Alabama and Kansas State. I'm really interested in seeing this Kansas State team. I've talked about them a lot on the podcast. I love Will Howard and Deuce Vaughn. I think actually Will Howard is playing to the level of Max Duggan. They did beat them in the Big 12 championship. However, Alabama has Bryce Young playing. Will Anderson's going to be in this game. I don't know why either of them have chosen to play, but that will make a huge difference. But Alabama has looked like a playoff team at times this season. I think they play like that in Bryce Young's last career game. As good as Kansas State is, as underrated as they are, they can't compete with a top SEC team. I think they lose this game about 34-17. The Music City Bowl, Iowa and Kentucky. Both quarterbacks are out. Will Levis is the bigger loss for his team for Kentucky, declaring for the draft. He should be a first-round pick, but Spencer Petras is still a loss for Iowa, and this Iowa offense has been near the bottom in college football all season. Take that offense, take their quarterback away. I don't think they score 10 points. I think they get about 9. Kentucky also has the better run game. Chris Rodriguez was, I think, one of the best RBs, in my opinion, in the SEC last season. This season, he was injured for a good part of it, but has come back and looked good. I think they win the Music City Bowl. Low-scoring, probably boring game, 16-9. The Orange Bowl, Clemson and Tennessee, literally the Orange Bowl. Will probably be a lot of orange in the stadium. Clemson has the better quarterback. Cade Klubnik has looked good of late, which he didn't look good at first, and he's just getting his first few starts over DJ Uiagalelei. And Tennessee will be starting Joe Milton with Hendon Hooker injured, so I think the quarterback makes a difference. Tennessee will still be able to move the ball. This Clemson defense, although it has some good players, is not great by any means, but I think turnovers kill Tennessee. I think Joe Milton maybe throws 2 interceptions, and they maybe throw a fumble in. So I think when it comes down to the turnover battle, Clemson wins that. They win this game in a high-scoring one, maybe 39-24. The Gator Bowl, looking between South Carolina and Notre Dame. I'm very excited for this game. I think it's an interesting matchup. And when we're looking at Notre Dame, Drew Pine transferred. That might not be a bad thing for them in this game. Notre Dame struggled at quarterback all year. And Marcus Freeman's going to be trying to get his first bowl win after losing last season to Oklahoma State. And I think Buckner's not a huge weakness. Obviously, Michael Mayer being out is a huge deal. Tight ends for young quarterbacks are a big safety blanket. But really, what this game comes down to is if South Carolina can perform. They've beaten Clemson and Tennessee in their last 2 games. 2 impressive wins. If Spencer Rattler can play up to that level, I think South Carolina wins this game. So although there's all the question marks at Notre Dame, this game will come down to South Carolina's play. I think they play up to the challenge and win this one 30-24. The Sun Bowl, looking at UCLA against Pitt. Keaton Slovis against his former rival when he was at USC was UCLA. But I really don't think this is much about him. I haven't watched much Slovis since the beginning of this season. But since DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Zach Charbonnet are playing, UCLA will win. They're stars. They have a high-powered offense, and I do think, although the defense hasn't looked great all year, they step up and stop Slovis here, win this one 35-17. The Duke's Mayo Bowl, great bowl. NC State and Maryland. NC State has the crowd. This game's in Raleigh, but Maryland has the quarterback. Dylan Leary for NC State's transferring, and Taulia Tagovailoa will be playing for Maryland. The key matchup to watch here is NC State's defense. They have a above average pass defense, I think one of the top 20 in the country, but Maryland, great pass offense. They've challenged teams in the Big Ten. Like I said earlier, they put up 30 on Ohio State. So I think it comes down to that battle, and I will slightly take, I think the defense falls short. I'll take Tagovailoa, even though in an upset here, I think he gets them through maybe with a 1-point win. Looking at the Barstool Bowl, or I guess the Arizona Bowl, which I'm very not interested in, probably the worst game later in the bowl season, Wyoming versus Ohio. I don't plan on watching this, but what I do know is Wyoming has failed to combine 30 points the last 3 games. They haven't been scoring against the FCS at all, and Ohio is in the MAC. I'll take the better conference here. 23-15 should be a low-scoring game. Washington and Texas. This game I'm most excited for, and I'm most confident about a bet here. I would take Washington moneyline. I think they upset Texas here. Bijan Robinson, Texas running back, is out, and I honestly like Michael Penix Jr. and the way he's been playing, maybe more than Quinn Ewers. I loved him, obviously, because he played at Indiana, but he has looked good for Washington. This should be a high-scoring one. Very interesting matchup. I will take Michael Penix and the Huskies to win this about 38-35. Florida State in the Cheez-It Bowl playing against Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel for Oklahoma, although they've had a horrible season, underwhelmed in Brent Venables' first season there. Dylan Gabriel, when he's started a game and finished it, they haven't lost by more than 7 yet. So I think that trend continues, but they lose by exactly 7. Florida State's the better team. They've been the better team since the very first game of the season. And Jordan Travis, I believe, is actually a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel. So I do think they win this one by about a touchdown. The Pinstripe Bowl, putting Minnesota and Syracuse against each other, 2 run-heavy teams. Not necessarily going to be the most interesting game, but when we're looking at the run games, I like Minnesota's running back, Mo Ibrahim, better. He has battled injury this year, so it should be a run-heavy game, though, even with him playing banged up a bit, should be low-scoring. But I don't like anything about Q's. I know Sean Tucker's a great running back, but I don't trust them. I think they fluked at the beginning of the season, so I think Minnesota wins this about 23-19. The Texas Bowl, putting Texas Tech against Ole Miss. Although the spread's 3.5, this game was the hardest one for me to pick. So I definitely take Texas Tech getting the points because I think it's such a toss-up. Texas Tech has been streaking as the season's ending, but they've been horrible on the road. This game's in Houston. I don't know if it counts as a road game for them. It's not in Lubbock, but it's also not out of state. And Ole Miss has looked horrible at the end of the season. Plus, Texas Tech's defensive end, a guy I could see the Chicago Bears drafting near the top of the draft, Tyrese Wilson's out. I'll take the Lane Train and Jackson Dart to win this maybe by a point because they have more talent, especially with Wilson out, and it might be a road game. But if trends continue how they have in the last few weeks, where Ole Miss has been horrible and Texas Tech's been streaking, I think Texas Tech could definitely win this game. The Holiday Bowl, Oregon versus UNC, great QB matchup. Bo Nix versus Drake May. And Bo Nix announced he'll be returning to Oregon next season. He's looked great. I'm excited to see what he does next year, and I think he's going to want to make a statement. I think that offense does a lot, scores 40+, and Drake May's good. Not good enough to have that UNC team score 40. I think they win about 40-24. Arkansas, my team, Woo Pig, in the Liberty Bowl. I think that they have struggled mightily at the end of the season, but Kansas is not ready to end that bowl drought. Kansas has the 119th ranked defense in the country. I think Raheem Sanders in Arkansas run all over them. I don't think it's a necessarily KJ Jefferson day to air it out. It's going to be Raheem Sanders who wins this game for Arkansas. Duke and UCF in the Military Bowl. I was going to pick UCF, but realistically, I've watched all three of their last games. They've looked horrible in each. They blew a lead to Navy. They nearly lost to USF. They looked horrible against Tulane. Duke is not necessarily a football school, but QB Riley Leonard has impressed me a lot. I think they win this game. Oklahoma State and Wisconsin, horrible game, guaranteed rate bowl. Both teams quarterbacks transferred, Spencer Sanders and Graham Mertz, and Wisconsin has a new head coach in Luke Fickell. Oklahoma State last year beat Notre Dame with Marcus Freeman coaching them in his first career game. I think they do it again, beat Wisco. Both teams are sorry. Wisco's a tad sorrier. I'll take them 20-17. Now some worse games, but I think still interesting. The Birmingham Bowl between Coastal Carolina and Eastern Carolina. The spread's close, but Coastal Carolina has nothing. Their coach left for Liberty, and Grayson McCall has entered the portal. They have nothing. I know the spread's close, but I still think ECU blows them out 41-16. They have a good quarterback receiver, RB combo. I think RB Keaton Mitchell really heads the ship here for the Pirates. My biggest upset of the whole bowl season, I have Utah State coming in the First Responders Bowl. They beat Oregon State last year. They have running back Calvin Tyler Jr., who I think is going to have a Frank Gore type of game. Frank Gore Jr. put up 330 yards for Southern Miss last week. I think they find a way to win this game against Memphis. I know they're 8.5-point underdogs, but I really think they find a way to win. They did upset Oregon State last year in their bowl game. I think they do it again. The Camellia Bowl, Georgia Southern playing Buffalo. I knew nothing about these teams except that Georgia Southern has head coach Clay Helton. He's done things in college football before. And quarterback Kyle Vantrease is in his last career game. He's a transfer from Buffalo, so this is a bit of a revenge game for him. I think he shows Buffalo why he's in a much better situation now at Georgia Southern. They win the the Camellia Bowl 35-20. The Quick Lane Bowl, nothing good about this. In Detroit, it's between Bowling Green and New Mexico State, but New Mexico State has the most entertaining player in this game in Diego Pavia. I think Jerry Kill and the Aggies win this game. Horrible game. No interest in watching it 30-27. The Hawaii Bowl, a little bit of a better city than Detroit, a little more interesting. We'll have Middle Tennessee State, who did upset Miami earlier in the season. That's all I remember from them, against a San Diego State team that struggled early, but they've really righted the ship late. They have a better program, a better team, more talent. I think they win this one handily, maybe 42-17. The Gasparilla Bowl, the first Power 5 game, the game I'm most excited to watch in the coming days, Wake Forest and Mizzou. It's really a coin flip, but with Sam Hartman transferring for Wake Forest, I think he's still playing, but I really question the motivation. I've told you how big of a factor that is, and I'm always going to take the better conference, which is the SEC. I think they win this one by a touchdown. The Independence Bowl, Houston. I have no idea who to pick in this game against the Ragin' Cajuns. Ragin' Cajuns have played a lot of bowl games in Louisiana, but never in Shreveport. I'll take Dana Holgerson. That defense allowed anywhere between 3 and 77 points this year, literally, so anything could happen. I think Dana Holgerson gets them right for this game, especially with his friend Mike Leach in his honor. Last game I'll pick the Armed Forces game. I'm excited to pick this because last year I picked Air Force to win their bowl game behind a huge game from Brad Roberts, and that's exactly what happened. Roberts has actually not looked as good this year, but they have the number 1 defense in college football, and they still have a great run attack. Baylor's a good team, but their offense has been shaky. I hate to pick against them. It really goes against all my morals, picking against a good Power 5 program with a good head coach in David Aranda, but I'll take Air Force. They're coached undefeated in bowl games. They won last year behind the top defense in the country. They win this game. Thank you guys for tuning in. It means a lot. I hope my picks are good. I hope everyone has a happy holidays, and we'll be back in January. Thank you so much.